President Roosevelt is the
soaped.
Cleaned. Anyway, let's see. Let's start off today's show.
Okay.
Martin, welcome to Stories from the Attic as my co-host. I'm Greg Van Antwerp, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host Martin Blanco.
Good morning, Greg. It's great to be here.
Thank you so much for coming and joining me once again for this series of discussions on the obsession or passion that I have.
It's a very fine line, isn't there, between
it's
passion and obsession?
It's a fine, with the fine line is a fine leather couch of a psychiatrist who says, "Greg, you do not have an obsession. It is your passion. It is your passion." Please go on. But I want to preface this by saying that Martin is also a podcast host of his own podcast. That's kind of a little department of redundancy department.
Yes.
But Martin, what is the name of your podcast?
I wish I were a prosciutto.
Prosciutto.
And what do you think it's about?
Something good to eat.
Good to eat. Italian food, Italian American food, and the traditions that feed it.
That feed it, but also the traditions that have come and gone, and you're trying to keep them from goning.
Yes, yeah. I'm trying to preserve the ones in my family that we can, but also looking for people, whether it be restaurateurs, purveyors of food, bakers, home cooks, though, who are sort of keeping the flame going for particular food traditions and whatnot.
So, as I have the ongoing attempt to create associations with estate sale companies so I can get to that dig before it gets thrown in the dumpster, you are kind of doing the same thing in your field and getting to those people that still have maybe the depth and breadth or just breadth of their own history, and have those traditions that are maybe sometimes hanging on by a thread, and sometimes, hey, a well-twisted rope that we're, it
really revolves around either recipes that are used in a restaurant or in a family, or the crafting of the food itself, how this bread is made, how the phrase, how the sausage gets made. Well, it can be, the craft behind it can be quite lovely. It doesn't have to be, the negative connotation, but how are things being made? How are they sourcing the food? Things have changed. Some things aren't available, some are, but it's really, you have to drill down to find them, whether it be in the product itself or the methods that they're using. And with all of this, there are great stories that go along with it. And so that's what we're about. And which is a food version of what
Stories from the Attic, right? Well, after Stories from the Attic, after digging through an attic or a basement, I'm hungry. That's why you, as my co-host, it's a nice dovetail into that, and which is a corporate expression, and I apologize to those of you from who work for corporations. Anyway, but today we are talking about actually a kind of a special event that just occurred, and that was, for all the attics and basements that I go to, I also am constantly trying to get my co-host Martin Blanco to join me, and so he can see for himself I want to say the passion or the obsession again of what I do and how I do it. And the best way sometimes is it's like teaching somebody to swim, and it's like, Martin, just close your eyes and just dive right in and join me in the dumpster, which is not always where I am, by the way. It's in this particular story happens in Wilton, Connecticut. It happened just a few weeks ago, I want to say, and the timing is really important, but it is these hot summer days. Yeah. And this was a house that is being cleared out. It's time for the family to move on and to settle an estate and to sell the house. Unfortunately, the house was left somewhat abandoned for quite a period of time, so the interior was quite scary. And so, Martin, I called you up and I said, Martin, you got to come to this one. And what was your reaction when you were like, it's like, was it like kind of like I finally have to go to one? Or
no. I've actually been looking forward to going to one, and it's really a matter of timing. So certainly the interest was there, and I was intrigued. But I don't know if I was fully prepared for what I would find. But I enjoy tag sales and estate sales,
Right.
For the same, I think, reasons you do, but probably, or obviously not to the same degree you do. But I enjoy it just the same as does my wife, and particularly in areas like Connecticut is chock full of areas of homes of people of not just affluence, but the people who have done interesting things, have made their mark in life in
Right.
all sorts of ways, and I'm fascinated by what they may, what remains, what they may have, what books they used to read, what music they would listen to, what tools they used in the kitchen, and of course when they become for sale. Yeah,
Right.
I like these things. I like things of utility that I didn't know existed before.
It's right. It's these threads of history that become finer and finer.
Yeah.
And sometimes, just following a couple of these threads, and it leads you to a much more cavernous piece of history.
Yes.
And which is, again, anyone can do this in their own neighborhoods and their own towns, is to just follow these threads of signs of sales and estate sales and give it a try.
Yeah.
Because what my goal really is here is to preserve history, is to capture it before it hits the dumpster, and to kind of rescue it. And not all of it. I mean, I'm married.
Can't. Right. For now. Yeah,
For
no,
now,
no,
yeah, right.
no. But you can't. But look, they're getting rid of it.
Right.
What are you going to... When I say you, I don't mean you. What is anyone,
gonna do with it? Right.
to do with it?
Right.
With all the stuff. It comes a point
And
where it's time to go.
Right.
But you lose a lot.
You lose a lot. Well, we're minimizing our existence. As we move forward.
Yeah.
We're downsizing. We're not. Our kids aren't moving into warehouses so they can store all this great stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, they're not.
If
No.
they're buying houses, they're renting apartments. They're much smaller. There's no place. And it's interesting. I just want a side economical note that I've noticed in my town and area. Maybe you have in yours. There is now an explosion of storage facilities. There have to be 3 going up within a 20-mile radius of me.
Now, I'm not noticing new ones going up, but the amount that already exist.
Right. Yes.
It's like, oh my God, I have a friend who is in this industry. It's been growth industry for a couple of decades now.
Right.
And
I always thought that there was, we did have kind of a problem with alcohol because, there seemed to be a liquor store in every corner. And then I realized that right next to every liquor store is a storage facility. And now I realize...
maybe they're wine cellars, right?
Maybe they're wine cellars.
They're a little climate controlled.
Would be a great... Now, there's a business that could start up, Martin. That I would just quickly run out
Have we stumbled into something here? Okay.
I think and you could those facilities could be built underground and save space. Anyway, but that typically is what I see is that I see this almost every corner in an analogous sense. It seems as though there are storage facilities going up everywhere. I really am seeing quite a few of them built.
That's interesting,
and that is indicative of this case that we have stuff. But we don't have places to put our stuff, and we need. And so there's a business out there taking advantage of the knowledge that apartment space is very, very expensive. Housing is very expensive right now. We can undercut that cost by giving people an alternative of providing an economy, a level of economy in space to store their stuff, and that's income for them. That's a great business model. But as such, not everybody wants to do that, especially with their parent stuff, their grandparent stuff. And it is a filtering down. We see very old stuff passed on to the next generation and the next generation. And then when it's time to clear out a house like this place that I finally got you to come into in Wilton, we were really pulling at threads because things were, these are things that are just about to go into the dumpster. They're only there for the quick sell of the buyers who might resell at antique marts and flea markets, and people who are just staunch collectors. And then there's me, who gets to be in there hunting for history. So when you showed up at this house, how did you find me?
Well, I mean, first of all, I went to meet you at some other sales not too long ago, and we kept missing each other. But one thing I've noticed is that whenever this would be my third or fourth where I've tried to meet up with you. Wherever you do these, parking is atrocious. Or not even parking, but actually getting that last you know how they say the last mile, the last 20 yards is like, what do I do with my car?
Right.
And this was one of those neighborhoods. So the GPS found it, but it really didn't because you have to go on down an unmarked road now, and there were lots of other houses.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm guessing, could this be it? And I see a bunch of cars, and I'm thinking, it's plausible this is it. And the one thing I noticed in this little enclave in Wilton is a lovely town.
It is beautiful.
For sure.
Absolutely.
And I have not been this deep within the bowels of Wilton, if you would say, but that perhaps a bad analogy. No, but
this house
might be
considered the closest to
a bowel. But the footprint of this little neighborhood, this cul-de-sac, there were 4 or 5 homes, all lovely. All not huge mansions, but lovely properties, big houses, lovely manicured. It's a place where I could envision living, having kids playing. And this house itself, while you see it's deteriorating, it is a modest home, deteriorating, but it's a nice piece of property. It would be a fine home to live in and grow up in if it had been maintained. And so then, looking at the home, looking at the sort of unmowed lawn, all the cars, I'm guessing this is it. I find a place to leave my car, and I get out, and then I hear your voice.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, right place. And then I see you up on the roof. And let me tell you, I don't do roofs, I don't do ladders, mostly not because I'm lazy, but I'm not graceful. And I am candidate, 100% candidate for falling off a roof or ladder. And so we're about the same age, give or take. But I'm like, I've abandoned ladders 20 years ago. So right away, I'm impressed. Look at Greg on the roof. And then the next thing that leaps to mind is, and I know what you're doing, that you're digging through the stuff. What in God's name is Greg doing on the roof? What stuff do they have on the roof? A fiddler on the roof sounds crazy. No, it's crazy.
It's crazy.
So you're on the roof. So I come up to you and I think, what the hell are you doing? And the person who's sort of supervising the tax sales sent you up there.
Right. Person I'm working for is an estate sale company.
Okay.
And she said, I want that weather vane. I must have the weather vane. And of course, everyone around me looks either not able to do that, or is turning their heads away going, no, I'm not interested. But for some reason, foolish me, who refuses to grow up and thinks that he's still 25, decides that, oh, sure, I can go up. And now, I won't go up on every roof. This was basically
I'm not insane. No, I won't go insane. Every roof. All right, but I'll entertain the thought. I'm not ruling it out. I'm just not going to go up every roof. Okay.
I have standards.
Okay. Some roofs you'll go up. Others, it's a bridge too far. A roof too far.
It's a roof too far. Right. Right. Exactly. Well, and this one, the pitch was such that, again, I'm mincing out the techniques of climbing a roof here. Yeah. The pitch is such that I don't feel like the pitch of the roof is going to cause my top heavy weight to tumble, and so I'm like, and once you get to the peak of a roof, and it's not that I want to say, I'm not going to talk in degrees. It was not a flat roof; it was a pitched roof, but it was not a severe pitch. So I'm walking across the peak of the roof, and I got to this weather vane, and I managed to pry it up. Some blood was shed, but we won't talk about that.
Oh no, we're talking. We are definitely talking about that. All right,
well,
go ahead.
Again, this is the worst part is that you're right. You should, the reason why you don't climb roofs anymore, climb ladders, not because you're going to fall off. It's because what it's going to lead you to. Because anyone can climb a ladder, and you climb up, you climb down. It's no big deal.
Sure.
But it's when you choose to climb a ladder to go where and do what. Yeah. That's where you've done the second thinking and gone, not wise. I'm not going to do this. This is where I have not thought far enough ahead.
So you haven't developed the thought pattern yet.
What do they call it? Learning from your mistakes?
Sure.
Yeah, it might be that. I have not picked up on that. So I'm, up there, and I've got a couple of, pairs of pliers, and I'm like, hey, it's just, a couple of nails, that are just on the peak of this roof, and it's right at the edge where it goes down to the garage, and like I can just force this thing up, it'll pop right off, and
on a roof, no less,
and
where you can throw your weight off suddenly. So,
and I'm thinking, and I was thinking ahead. I was like, how can I get this down? And I was like, there was some antenna wire that's just laying there on the roof. I
can't even listen to it. I didn't know this part. Go ahead.
And the antenna was not connected. It's just this wire. Yeah. And I'm like, it feels like pretty strong wire. Yeah, sure. So I cut it off at where it reached the brick chimney, and I'm like, this is a good length of rope. It's like, again, talk about giving someone enough rope to hang themselves with. Yeah. This is what basically I'm doing. So I basically go to that, bring that with me, and I start to pry up this weather vane, and it's like it's kind of fighting with me. So I get one of the pliers underneath one of the nails, and then boom, and my arm pops up and hits the W.
Okay.
For West.
Okay.
And the West is history. Basically, I sliced my arm.
Let's see. Yeah, you did
in a non-vital area, let's say. But I did
no organs.
No organs
were harmed. Still,
I seem to have missed the vein or the artery that would have ended this whole story weeks ago. But I was like, oh nuts! I'm bleeding, and I'm like, it's just I kind of sliced the a little bit, but not to get too graphic. But it was bleeding, and I'm like,
it was bleeding.
I'm like,
well, when you came down the ladder, and the ladder was, it was put down, but the ground wasn't really super level, and it hadn't been
full of weeds.
It was full of weeds, and you're coming down, and I know what's living in the weeds, snakes, deer ticks, but you're coming, and then when you're down, I'm like, what happened to Greg's arm? Now, you're not crying out in agony, and you're not passing out, but your arm was bloodied and bleeding. Like, Greg, what are you okay? What happened? And you filled me in on some of the details, not all of it. And then you went to clean it up. But I'm already thinking, what have I gotten myself into? Okay.
Finally, the last mile.
I mean, I'm looking for books and records and kitchen tools and dishes, right? What's going to happen in there when I step inside?
What do you have to give up to get things out of this house?
Exactly. Right. What's it going to cost me?
How far are you willing to go? And the question is that there's always a limit, and it's like, I want to be that limit. Like, I don't want to go as far as him. I want to know. So I want to be the.
In terms of the bear chasing us, I just have to be faster than Greg.
That's a little faster, a little less bloody than me. Right. Exactly. I managed to patch myself up. I have a first aid kit in the car, and I managed to just tidy it up so I could cover it, and it would be protected.
Cleaned it up. You had some bottled water. You poured some water on.
Yeah, right.
I felt like I was in a Cormac McCarthy story. Okay, where they're cleaning the wounds with bottled water that we found under a tree. I don't know. And,
I was looking for whiskey. I couldn't find any. Anything with alcohol. But it was. I managed to get the weather vane down. Made the boss happy.
Yeah.
And safely climbed down the ladder.
Yes.
Only slightly scathed. I didn't feel dizzy at all. But anyway, other than my normal dizziness. But so and on that, it was onto the house.
Onto the house.
Onto the house.
You said you were bringing a mask, and I tend to mask up for infectious disease reasons,
right.
Pandemic reasons.
Right.
If indoors, I'm not shy about that.
Right.
And for this house, it was as soon as I stepped in, it was, I'm not worried about COVID. I'm worried about any number of viruses that have been dormant for centuries, maybe now unleashed in this unholy mess. So I masked up.
I didn't want to tell you that I had started to see colors of mold that I'd never seen before. I mean, I've seen white mold and I've seen black mold.
Yeah,
and I've seen a mix, and then I started to see like an orange mold. That's fairly new.
Then the new one, mold comes in many colors.
All the colors of the rainbow.
Well, the thing of it is, so we step inside, and again, what I said about the house is true. Modest house, but a lovely house. It's a fine place to live. Arguably, for 99% of the people in the world, place of privilege to live too. But it's decaying, and all the stuff is all over the floor and on tables. Some things on shelves, but everything, the whole interior, seemed to be in an area of decay. It reminded me of what's the HBO Max movie that's based on the video game about the mold that has taken over. It's turning people into zombies.
Generation Z?
No. But it's The Last of Us. I felt like this could have been part of an episode of the Last of Us. Something. It looked like something catastrophic and biological happened here, and that's probably not the case, but that's what it looked like.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? In my imaginative mind, sometimes when I'm in these houses, again, the challenge is to get the best history. You have to go to the worst places, and that I've accepted, and this. By many means, is one of the worst conditioned homes I've been in, for the sake that there was no electricity, the plumbing had been turned off, and it had clearly not been, the air had not been circulated enough, and so there was, I don't want to say mold everywhere, but if you were to walk in and then call up someone from set design or someone who wanted to produce a movie on the aftermath.
Yeah. Post-apocalyptic, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We're in it
now.
It felt that way. Yeah.
Without question.
Yeah.
Without question.
I mean,
and so the first room we were in was sort of like a living room.
Right.
And I see a piano, and I played the piano. It was out of tune, but it played.
Nice,
played. And I said there were shelves of books, and then there was a big table littered with books and clothing and other stuff, and there was stuff all over the floor.
Right.
And but my eyes were drawn to, like, almost immediately, the top shelf above the piano, the Grove Dictionary of Music and Musicians.
What's
and
that?
This is, it's what the title says, but it's not a book. It is a multi-volume. And I just looked it up, before coming to the show. 29 volumes. I'm thinking a dozen. Okay, 29 or maybe 24, 29 volumes to this. And I know this publication. I've used it from time to time academically. Right. So we're talking decades ago. We needed some information, and it looked to be in very good condition, probably because of its height. It wasn't. But I'm looking at that and I'm stunned, because it's something you would find not in someone's home, something you would find in a library, not necessarily a public library, although maybe, but an academic library.
Right.
Certainly, libraries in a music department at a university.
Right.
Probably major concert halls have copies of this in their rooms and their offices and whatnot. And it's a great tool. But what it says is, it's not something you have casually or accidentally. That's reflective of something of lifestyle. And so I see a piano.
Right.
I see records, and I see this wonderful reference volume. Someone values music and was either an academic or a performer at a certain level, not even necessarily professional, but cared enough.
Right.
And so in the midst of this detritus and this post-apocalyptic whatever, there is and I didn't look at them carefully. They may have been moldy or whatnot, but what looked to be like the best preserved things in the room was this very esoteric set. And part of me said, "Is this for sale? I'd like to have it."
Right.
And I thought, "What the hell am I said, well, I can't." And a couple of years ago, we downsized, and we did have a big house and lots of books and lots of bookshelves. But the point is, we had the space for it, and we could. And I said, "Oh, in the old house, we could have that now." Really, it would be to bring him one extra book is like, honey, don't be mad, with book and flowers, to say that. But the idea of bringing home a 29-volume set, well, I couldn't even fantasize about, But
dead weight, probably probably about 200 to 300 pounds of books, probably. Yeah.
Well, but then the next thing I noticed was a complete Encyclopedia Britannica, and I know Britannica isn't even publishing books anymore. It's all online.
Right.
And Grove, I don't know if Grove is still publishing the books, but they also have an online version too that that you would sell by subscription. But I really wanted the Encyclopedia Britannica, because it's a wonderful, wonderful thing to have and refer to. And we used to have, again, in our other house, we had a World Book Encyclopedia for the kids. Who wants it anymore? Me. No, that's it. But maybe you. and no one else.
One else.
But I'm just astounded by that.
So what you saw is exactly kind of the tells that I look for when I go into a house, and I'm hunting for history. It shows that there's a depth of cultural understanding and knowledge and value for a study in something. And you're right, it paints a picture. Can we find that famous or just well practiced musician, or that connection to the music publishing world? I don't know, but what it does tell us is that there's a reason to look further, and that and of the the minor ostentatiousness of the layout of the house tells us that there was money here at one point, and that library says that there was money here or in the family at one point. So that causes me to dig deeper, and when I dug deeper in this house, I found the most fascinating documents of this family, and it was really just one single document, and it wasn't the original. It was a photograph, and I have a shot of that, and it is of incorporating papers, and really before incorporation, really it's company creating papers in 1855 or 56.
Wow!
Of the family name signing these incorporation papers along with George Westinghouse, and it's the founding of Westinghouse.
Okay,
and so that in and of itself is like, oh, we're at the foundation of one of the largest companies in America that was influential. In the development of, oh my gosh, everything.
You're right. So much technology, so much industry.
Right, from naval engines and railroad brakes and just all kinds of large industrial manufacturing that kind of built America into this powerhouse. And there we have at the the kind of the nearest point is your vision of these books, and at the furthest point in history, the earliest thing I could find is these incorporation papers. And so in a timeline sense of just two items, we kind of have what those books lead us to as far as history, that there's a reason to look and there's a reason to keep digging. And is it important that I have these? No, it's more important that the message is, or the moral of the story is, to keep looking in these what seem to be these decrepit places sometimes, because there could be something significant about the creation of family history, the creation of society, the creation of culture, the creation of things that we just don't have as primary source anymore.
Sure.
We have people that have written about them. We have people that have dramatized them, but we don't have the actual documents.
Sure.
They could be gone.
Well, you know what? In most of these houses, or most of the things in these houses, you can't save them.
Right.
It's just too much. Full stop. And that's very true for everything here. But you could save these documents that they found, and they may be of real historical interest, at university level. If you had those, however many they were, maybe you might know. Maybe there's a box worth of that stuff. That's actually worth preserving, and it's almost good that you got that before everything got pitched in the dumpster.
Now we have some found things from this and some other sales of interesting letters, but I think we're going to have to save that for the next episode, because
did we go too long in this?
We didn't. There's no such thing as too long. But
we didn't even get to the game room.
We didn't even get to the game room. I know. This is going to have to be a 2, maybe 3-parter, and we'll pick up with the next episode of some of the letters that were just sitting around, waiting to be found, that are, again, of a certain significance to points in history that maybe no one ever knew about, or of people that we should have known about, or deserve another moment in the sun. So for today, I'm Greg Van Antwerp.
I'm Martin Blanco.
And thanks for listening to Stories from the Attic, and we'll see you next time.
President Roosevelt is the